I'm Herman Faust, and this is Enjoy It While It Lasts. Today's deep dive, what I'm grateful for. As parents, we like to point out all the things we do for our kids and that they should be grateful for. We tell them about people that have it worse and how much work goes into making their lives as comfortable as they are. The thing is, we are usually focusing on the negative side when wanting them to focus on the positive. We don't model what it looks and sounds like to be grateful often enough. Yet we expect people who don't have life experience to appreciate our work and to not take what we provide for granted. The strongest way to teach kids how to be something is to be it in front of them. I am going to take some time out from looking at society's issues and talk about my life in a way that's a little different than my norm. I want to showcase what all I have in my life that I am genuinely thankful for. I spent my life expecting to die young. That expectation was set at my birth, actually, with my mom being told that I had a high chance of infant mortality and that my life expectancy was about 10 years. As I got older, I didn't really internalize it emotionally, but I always talked and lived as if I didn't have a long life to plan for. As my life progressed, it was clear that I was living longer and with less complications than was predicted. However, it was more like the progression of the disease was slower than I thought, as opposed to just not happening. But it was still following an expected pattern. I was steadily declining in my health throughout my 20s, and when I started my 30s, the decline became steep. At one point, my lungs had dropped to only functioning at 16% of their expected strength. I was denied eligibility for a lung transplant by one center. I was on 24 hours oxygen support at this point, finding that it was a struggle to even pick up a basket of laundry or even walk across the room at times. I would huff and wheeze and cough my way through the day while trying to do as many chores as I could to help out. Preparing meals for my family, giving my kids as much attention as I could without collapsing from exhaustion. In this time, my wife and I were faced with planning for a future without me in it, and figuring out the best way to handle conversations with our kids, trying to find the best ways for them to feel like they knew their father if I died before they were old enough for them to have lots of memories ingrained. I would lay in bed at night, coughing and fighting for every breath, and it would cross my mind that one of these nights, maybe this one, my fighting would not be rewarded. That one time, I would start coughing and never be able to have a gasp of air hit me with an inhale. One time I was going to end up drowning in my bed, and that would be it. I wasn't supposed to live much longer than a month at that point. Definitely wasn't expected to have the full recovery that I have had in the last several years. My gratefulness for being alive is not a generic feeling. It's a specific one. Breathing is something most people take for granted, but something I appreciate every day. Now in the mornings, I wake up and start my day normally, instead of waking up with lungs heavy with mucus that is too thick to cough up. Now I try to remember to take an intentional, deep breath when I first wake up, simply because I can. It's not just that I'm alive. I am healthier now than I have been since my early 20s, and more consistently stable than I have ever been at any point in my life. My weight is consistently between 145 to 150 pounds now, and that may not sound great for a guy that's 5'11", but I used to consistently sit around 120. My appetite is much more consistent, and I am actually gaining and maintaining when I do eat, absorbing calories better than I ever used to. I used to take breathing treatments when I woke up. I had to, or else I would not be able to stop my coughing fits. I had to clear as much stuff out of my airways as possible for me to feel functional. I still take treatments now, but the urgency is gone. It's more to help me maintain clear and open airways instead of forcing a path open for oxygen. I have so much more energy compared to my old life. I consistently do the chores needed. I can play and pretend with the kids. I've even started riding bikes with them every now and then. Not only can I walk through my house, I can actually walk around the neighborhood. I go on walks consistently now, building my body up more than I was able to before, and getting all of the mental health benefits that come with being outside more too. I can feel the sun, the wind, the neighborhood houses as they change throughout the year. Actually feel like I'm a part of my surroundings. I'm even reminded to be grateful when I do get sick. When I feel feverish or get a cough and feel weak for a few days, I feel grateful in these times because now when I get sick, I get better too. It doesn't always end with me being gone for 5 to 7 days in the hospital or weeks on IV antibiotics. I tend to stay a little sicker than my family for an extra day or so, but then I recover on my own without major medical intervention. It's been about a year and a half since I needed antibiotics or a hospitalization. Even then, things were so much smoother when I did go. I don't take it for granted since I've lived over 30 years with my life being interrupted with hospitalizations twice a year consistently. There are so many healthcare workers that have helped take care of me, helped keep me alive long enough for medical scientists to advance medications enough for me to have this recovery. As a child, I had doctors that would talk to me in ways that would let me know what was happening with my body without scaring me. Nurses that would treat me like a person instead of just a patient. They would talk with me and help me normalize my life. Respiratory therapists that would spend hours giving me breathing treatments and percussive therapy while hospitalized. In the past, they used to have to manually pound on my chest like a ketchup bottle, something my mom would do when we were at home. This we did this in order to clear everything out of my lungs. Some of their hands may have been rougher than others, but they would generally try to adjust for my comfort and talk to me during the treatments so that it wouldn't feel awkward. More recently, when I was at my lowest in health, I had a doctor go beyond what would be considered a normal level of care. She fought to get me medications before it was available to the public after I was initially getting blocked from receiving them. She also met with me weekly to tweak medications and to see if something would work. She had a running conversation with me that would help me to keep everything in perspective and know exactly what to expect. Not to mention the people that developed the medications that kept me alive and improving. They had such a huge impact on my life without us ever seeing each other. Besides life and health, another thing people try to tell their kids to be grateful for is the roof over their heads and the food on their tables. These are also things that I don't take lightly. When you experience life without stability, you tend to appreciate not having to stress out about the necessities. I have not missed a meal that I didn't choose to miss in my adult life. Not once have I stayed hungry because I didn't have something viable to eat. Even better than that, I like what I get to eat. I don't have to rely on the cheapest possible food options. I can even have times where I plan out extravagant meals, afford to risk experimenting with different recipes, and I go out to eat fairly regularly. I can't say the same thing about my childhood. My nutrition definitely wasn't balanced. I also had a time period in my early years where I wasn't sure where home was going to be. We moved through apartments, trailer parks, and motels for a few years. It happened frequently, quickly, and oftentimes without any warning at all. Now, my kids have lived in the same house for the past 6 years, and we had only lived in one apartment for a few years of their lives before we bought the house. Not only do we all have our home, they each have their own rooms within it. They might not realize how big of a deal that is, but as someone that shared a room and sometimes even a bed with my mother and my brother growing up, I know the value of having your own space. I still enjoy having my own space now, where I can hide out in my room when the kids playing gets just a bit too crazy for me. Of course, being dad, I can't truly get away and am spotted pretty quickly, but I still cherish those few moments of being able to walk away into another room. Just as important as having space inside the home, having security outside of our home is also amazing. We have a fenced-in yard for our dog to roam and the kids to run in. Trees in the yard to provide shade and to make the view better when we look up through the leaves into the blue sky. Also, they give a climbing spot for my kids when my wife is too distracted to stop them. We have a field adjacent to our yard. It makes the world feel less suffocating because there is an open space directly behind our home. We also live in a double cul-de-sac. This has been perfect for us, having three young kids. We feel so much more secure when they're playing outside, riding their bikes back and forth, or even just playing in the street, because the only people that come into our street are the ones that live here or are making a delivery. Anybody that comes into our street are is also forced to slow down because there's not a straightaway entry. You're forced to turn in the middle of the block. Way more than my own safety and comfort, I am grateful that my kids have a chance to learn gratitude the hard way by starting their life actually having things. I'd much rather have the parental struggle of teaching them how lucky they are rather than trying to build enough strength in them to endure a rocky start in life. One thing that most people take for granted until they don't work is their appliances in their home. I try not to. I appreciate being able to replace something if it is broken beyond repair. We had a microwave go out and replaced it within a week. As a child, the time we had a microwave break, I spent a long period of time going to the neighbor's house anytime I wanted to heat something up. When I passed by a laundromat, I remember carrying baskets of laundry, getting quarters, waiting in that public, hot, humid building for a couple of hours at a time. I remember having to lug all the clothes back home and trying not to let them wrinkle on the way. Nowadays, when something goes wrong, I actually have the resources to fix it. I've even taken my dryer apart to replace a part before. I can afford to buy what's needed and use the old handy dandy YouTube to find someone that will show me what to do. Another thing that you might not think to be grateful for, unless you have had to go without, is reliable transportation. As a kid and teenager, walking and riding the bus is how I got places most of the time. I would have to get up extra early in the mornings to walk half a mile to the bus stop to go to school. One time in my first semester in college, I even missed a class because I was in a rush to make it, jogged to the bus stop, and realized I didn't have any materials with me after I got on the bus. It was a chemistry course and where we were told that we had to bring our books every day. So I got off the bus at the next stop after getting on and walked back home. The great thing about having two vehicles is if anything is ever wrong with one, we still have transportation. I had a tire blowout last month. I didn't have a spare and it took a long time for the tow truck to get it, so I had to wait for the next day to get it to the tire shop. I didn't have to worry about how to pick up my kids though. Everything was okay since my wife had her car. I've been talking about gratitude for stability. The thing that makes all of this stability possible is my wife's job. My wife became a teacher after she graduated. and has since become an administrator. Throughout our time together, I would always have a job, but her job was the one that kept us situated. Her job is the one that provided me insurance that kept me alive at my sickest and let me get the medications that eventually led to my health improving. Her job is the one that provided enough resources to allow me to quit working and become a stay at home parent when our kids came into our lives. We both always agreed that if we were going to become parents and have kids, that we wanted to be the ones to raise them as hands on as possible while they were small, and for them not to spend most of their waking hours in a daycare. I got to directly water and grow their minds organically since we were together all of the time. The kids got a sense of security that is stronger than what most families have the opportunity to instill. It still benefits us now that they're in school. I get to stay home with them if any of them are sick, and I get to go to all of their school events. My kids aren't the only ones that benefit from this. I have gotten so much fulfillment from being able to be with them the way that I have. My wife also gets benefits from me being a stay at home parent because when she is home from work, she is able to focus her energy on making the most of her time with the kids instead of the extra work that would need to be done if we were both working full time. And that's all because of the security my wife's job brings us. My gratitude for my kids is multidimensional. First off, a side effect of cystic fibrosis is that I can't have kids naturally. We decided to go the foster to adopt route to build our family. We didn't adopt three kids to be altruistic and just simply to try to help the world. We did it honestly for selfish reasons of wanting a family. That process can vary wildly between smooth as a straight line, or it can contain jagged edges with twists and turns that you won't see coming. In our case, we had our kids for over 2.5 years before we were able to adopt. Considering that our kids came to us as a newborn, a 1 year old, and a 2 year old, during that time we became their safety, their home, their family. We fell in love with them, and it very quickly became ingrained in us to be willing to do whatever possible to provide for them, to love them, and to protect them. During those 2.5 years, we went through a roller coaster of emotions. Every time we thought we were about to reach a point where we could move forward with the adoption, something would come up. Bio parents waited till the last second to start going through with rehab, stayed just long enough to extend the process, then they would get out and go back to their normal. We weren't worried about losing our children to a potentially recovered bio parent. We weren't worried about our own heartbreaks while knowing the kids would be okay. What we were worried about was the fact that the people that were trying to get the kids placed back with them were not fully committed to being parents. On top of that, 3 separate times distant relatives of theirs popped up and tried to get approved through CPS to have the kids rehomed to them. The first couple were easily dismissed by the state. They didn't have the room or the capability to care for 3 children. The last set got a closer look. By the time they came into the picture, we were getting close to the 2 year mark of the kids being with us. The first red flag for us personally was that they never tried to step up for the kids beforehand. We later learned that they previously had a child in their custody from a different family member. And despite the court order that they were supposed to keep that child away from the bio parent, they let the parent take the child on their own repeatedly. This really worried us because it felt like if they did get the kids, they weren't even going to try to give them the same type of home that we were. They were just doing it to circumvent the courts and would let the kids go back to live with the unfit parents that lost them to begin with. Of course, our own fear of heartbreak also contributed to our feelings. So, combined, this was an extremely stressful time. My kids now have a home where they have routine, they have responsibilities, they have more attention and love than they need. It's not just in our household either. They have extended family that is safe and fun. They have a clear place within that larger family. To this day, I still like to remind myself of that fear, the fear of heartbreak and the fear of my kids possibly being in a home that doesn't provide them what they deserve. I will drive past the CPS location where they had their supervised visits. I allow myself to go back to that place mentally, and then I allow myself to let all of those feelings go. I let all the joy from how things played out flood me. This helps me never take my children for granted and also keeps me grounded during the times where parenting becomes difficult. I'm also grateful for my children because they provide me with stability. They force me to get up and go about our day no matter how I'm feeling. When I was at my sickest physically, they gave me a reason to always push through. When I went through a time period of deep depression, it was always for their sake that I would fake it. I would play with them and take care of them even when I didn't feel like taking care of myself. They gave me a reason to fight through everything, no matter how difficult it was. I have pet names for my kids. I call my oldest son my rock, my middle daughter my star, and my youngest daughter my heart. I gave them these when they were younger, but the reasoning still holds true so far, at least through their childhood. Armin, my rock, is solid, dependable, and is the first one to call if I just need help with something real quick. Even though now he is grumbling about it a little bit more as a preteen. My star, Gabby, is the center of attention in a natural way. She can hold conversations with anyone and loves to perform. There are times when she might not know when to shut up, but we're working on learning control. My heart, Poe, is full of emotions. Luckily, the main one is joy, and she spreads it. Being the baby, she's naturally the most spoiled and also the one that can get people to smile by doing pretty much nothing. Our problem with her now is that she knows the effect she has on people and takes full advantage of it. Together, they have a dynamic that keeps every day full and doesn't allow for boredom to ever set in. I'm also grateful for the pets in my life. They bring a blend of chaos and stability to my life. Just like with my kids, the pets force me into movement whether I want to move or not. They need to be fed. Litter box and enclosures need to be cleared out. Dogs got to be walked. Nails got to be trimmed. That's just the structural aspects of what they provide, which honestly is the least important contributions. Our bearded dragon, Drogon, introduced lizards in my life, and I got to learn a whole new way to take care of a creature. This pet probably feels the most science class for the kids. It's been a learning experience watching him eat different worms and salads, seeing him grow and shedding his skin, and seeing brumation firsthand. I had to reassure my kids several times that he wasn't dead, despite not moving for a few months, and was very relieved to be right when he started walking around again. Dogs have been consistent for my wife and me. Currently, we only have one, Bella. They provide the unconditional love that makes life feel better. They let the house be more fun with playing, cuddling, and also gives us a sense of safety. We know they aren't going to attack any intruders if we ever had one, but they will at least bark at the initial noise to give us some type of warning. The cats are a little newer for us, just over a year old now. Ume and Gyataro are our first cats in the family. In this last year, they have made me realize that I might be more cat than dog. I love having them sit on my lap and purring while I watch TV, or how they cuddle with me when I lay down for a nap. They also provide tons of entertainment by watching them chase each other and climb over things when they decide to just randomly zoom through the house. People that don't have pets may not realize just how different their personalities can be. Learning those personalities and adjusting to them makes having pets just so much more fun and more rewarding. I am thankful for my relationship with my wife. We met when she was 19 and I was 20. So we have basically grown up together. And we are huge influences on who the other person has became. She knows how to perfectly ride the line between getting on my nerves and making me laugh. She also keeps me on my toes at home. Something that I used to be bothered by, but I have grown to love about her, is her need for change. I tend to get comfortable and want to stick with things. I feel like if a room has been set up to be optimized, we should never change the room around. She will randomly decide that the living room has stayed the same for too long, or our bedroom needs to be freshened up, and then I am suddenly helping move furniture around. She also is the engine behind changing our decor seasonally. My procrastination would probably mean not putting up decorations until a few days before a holiday and then leaving them up until a few days before the next one. My wife is also the driving force behind making sure that our kids have the option for some extracurricular activities: piano, swimming lessons, acting classes, basketball, soccer, and flag football teams. Our kids are always in something, and it's because of her mainly. She keeps us flowing through time and makes sure that we never get stuck. We are fortunate enough to have plenty of people outside of our home to be grateful for as well. My kids have grandparents that they get to go visit and we get to use as babysitters. Even when I feel like they visit too much, I still love the connection and consistency they bring. My kids have 1,000 cousins to play with and have the opportunity to form a closer relationship with the ones that they click with the best. They also get to experience interacting with practically all ages. Every developmental stage in childhood is represented within the family. Adults from early 20s to 70s are around and fully engaging with the kids. I was fully integrated into my wife's extended family very early on, so much so that they are my family now, even in a world where my wife and I weren't together anymore. Besides family, I don't have many friends, but I do have a best friend whom I can share struggles and good times with. Sometimes that could be as simple as a quick text that doesn't even require a response, just an opportunity to vent. I feel like I also need to talk about the people that have been part of my life at different times in the past. They may not be around me near as much, or sometimes not at all, but they impacted me in ways that I am grateful for. My uncle from my dad's side, who picked me up to make sure I got to spend time with my cousins. My aunt, who treated me like one of her kids anytime I was over. My cousins, for giving me a sense of what it would be like to have siblings my age or older. Going over to their house as a child was always a great time for me, and I really looked forward to those weekends. My friends that lived on the same block as me, the ones I started hanging out with as an 11-year-old, they gave me a sense of place that I hadn't experienced before. They were integral in me feeling comfortable enough to form a baseline of who I am. They also provided me with further chances to be part of their household, to see from the inside what a functional, caring family looked like. Also, my friends that I have made great memories with throughout my adulthood, but life has just dragged us apart. I appreciate all of you and I love all of you, whether we ever get back together or not. Something that's newer in my life, well, only for the past couple of years at least, is therapy. I have so much gratitude for the role therapy has had in me being able to figure my shit out. It helped me get out of that deep depression I was experiencing piece by piece. It helped me relearn how to self regulate. A big lesson for me was that things didn't have to be all or nothing. I didn't have to feel like everything bad was my fault and that I deserved it. But I also didn't have to feel like I was helplessly trapped in the flow of life. I have been learning how to take responsibility for my choices and at the same time acknowledge limitations placed on me by reality. One outcome of therapy is that I have learned to reconnect with myself. I spent a lot of my life mirroring whoever was in front of me. I didn't have the confidence to simply be myself in certain situations. In the worst of my depressed years, I defaulted into silence or full time mirroring. I didn't even know what I sounded like when I wasn't trying to sound like other people. Recently, I've noticed that I have overcome that issue. I don't pretend to agree with opinions that I disagree with. I don't change my voice to sound softer with strangers. I simply act and talk in the ways that come naturally to me. I am grateful to myself for the work that I have put in to get here. It wasn't as simple as going to therapy and then getting to this point. Therapy helped me find the roadmap, but I still had to walk the path. It wasn't easy. There were tons of times where I wanted to just give up on the possibility of changing things, where I wanted to lay down in my bed, cave myself in, and just exist. Now I'm living. I got myself here, and I appreciate me for that. I also helped create a home where dogs, cats, lizards, plants, and children all live in a safe, happy, and fun environment. I have turned myself into what I needed as a child. I think I deserve a little gratitude to myself for that. Good job, me. All of the things that I have talked about have led me to be in a position where I can finally try to fulfill my lifelong dream to create. I always wanted to be a writer ever since the fourth grade when I started writing essays and stories for school. Hell, if I think about it, even before that, I had a vague idea of writing stories because of the ones that I used to love to read. But fourth grade was the moment that I realized that I could do it. I love being the center of attention, so I have wanted to be a comedian at times or an actor. I've always wanted to make my living and find my purpose in creativity. Now I actually get to combine different aspects of my dream and have settled into using this podcast as my creative outlet. Whether it one day becomes my income or not doesn't even really matter because it has allowed me to find and further define my own voice. There isn't going to be any doubt about who I am for anyone that listens to my show. My life experiences has also led me to have things to say that I believe matter. One of my hesitations to starting this podcast before was the fact that there is so much noise out there already. My life, especially the hard parts, have led me to feeling like what I had to say isn't just noise, but that it can actually matter. Probably won't matter to everyone, but it will to some, and it matters a ton to me. As part of this, I am grateful for every listener that I get. Every time someone decides to hit play on an episode, every time they choose to listen to my voice, I feel a little more connected to the world. So the last thing that I'm grateful for today is you. Thank you for listening. Remember, you only got one life to live. You might as well enjoy it while it lasts.